If you watch personal finance, investing, and entrepreneurship content on YouTube, you've likely heard about different ideas for the best side hustle. A common piece of advice or suggestion you may hear is to just build an app. While I've made and built an award-winning app, this video is going to teach you several of the lessons I've learned from this journey. And if you watch this video all the way through to the end, you'll find out just how much I made from it too. If that sounds interesting, make sure to teach this video a lesson by clicking that like button to see how much it can make in the YouTube algorithm. While you're down there, please also subscribe and ring the bell if you would like to be notified when new videos come out every Friday. They'll help you live a life you love through personal finance, investing, and self-improvement. Hi, I'm Evan, an award-winning app creator. As much as I hate saying that, it is an objective truth. To tell you how I got that title, let's go back to my junior year of college. My primary major was business analytics. One of the required courses in my school's curriculum for the analytics major was a class called Object-Oriented Design and Development. We focused on primarily three things in this class: the theory and logic behind object-oriented design, working with Mendix, and programming in Java. To summarize the first part, objects are basically just things. You can describe things about an object, which would be its attribute. I am an object, and the shirt I'm wearing is an attribute about me. If I were in a room with a bunch of people named Evan, you could say that we are a group or a class in object-oriented terminology. Each individual unique Evan would be an instance of that class. I know this is a bit high level, but stick with me. This is going to be important in the actual app development stuff later. One of the main purposes with working with object-oriented concepts is for reusability. Think about templates. You get something generic and then you customize it to suit your needs. Object-oriented programming can act like taking something generic like a template and then applying specifics to it like how you would customize a template. One example is creating information. This information will then be entered into a database. Databases are collections of objects and the information about them. Each object is called a record, and pieces of information about it are called attributes. Again, stick with me because this is going to be important for building the app. Every time you need to add something new to the database, object-oriented programming can call the same piece of code, what we're calling the template, and then have the user customize this template by adding the right data. And then this can be easily repeated. So let's say that there's an attribute that's going to be shared with every record you're going to enter. You can set up the data entry such that the app creates objects automatically with that attribute. The new records you create will thus inherit the attribute from another object or class. With that background out of the way, let's talk about Mendix. Mendix is a low-code, no-code app development platform. It's built around trying to bridge the gap between those who understand business, problems, and value, and those who understand the technical aspects of programming. Essentially, Mendix allows users to very easily create basic applications to try and solve a business problem. For example, the first app we made in the class was for managing and recording inventory as well as sales for a fictional bookstore. The lab assignments that helped guide us through basic app creation were great for reinforcing the object-oriented theory we were learning in the class, as well as learning logic, which, by the way, is the main component of programming. It's essentially how the app or program will understand what to do in certain circumstances. It's the instructions that get the program to run. If this is true, then do that. If X is greater than Y, then do this. Although that's a bit of an oversimplification. You'll hear me refer to logic as microflows, since that's what Mendix calls the components you have to create in order to execute custom logic. All the lab and test apps we were building in class were leading up to our final project. We worked with a small business development center to create custom apps that would manage the logistics for a conference they were intending to run in the following year. The winning team would be able to make some improvements to their submitted app and then have it actually used at the conference. We had to translate the wants, needs, and ideas of the SBDC staff into a fully functioning custom-built app. The main thing was to provide attendees with a platform which would be able to show them an itinerary of the conference, get directions, browse different panels, and maybe book one-on-one consulting sessions. I delivered all of that and more. To provide some additional context, I went into developing the app having done very well with our class assignments. I also had prior programming experience from other college courses and throughout high school. Shout out to my team and thank you very much for your contributions if you happen to see this. For the most part though, the app was developed mostly by me alone. And let me tell you, I spent a good chunk of time making that app. Now why would I do that? Well, the middle of this semester is when the first lockdown started, so I had a lot more free time than normal, and to be honest with you, I just really enjoyed working on the app. I'm going to go over the app and then talk about some of its challenges, and then I'll also explain certain choices I've made during the development cycle. It's also been a while since I looked at the app, so I'll critique things as they come up as well. Well, here's my award-winning app. A bit plain, isn't it? When I made this, there weren't very many options for custom colors and graphics. The best I could have done was likely to put a different picture in the header. At the very least, I should have changed the color scheme a bit to better match the SBDC logo. You'll notice not every homepage icon is represented on the top taskbar. Personally, I'm okay with just having the important tabs, but I can understand if someone would be annoyed having to go back to the homepage to access one of the pages that aren't on the taskbar. Starting with the agenda, I like this page quite a lot. The switch from the top taskbar to the side one isn't necessarily the best. However, this was to help out with the mobile view, and that's because mobile optimization was one of the wish list items for the SBDC staff. People were very impressed by that, even though it was one of the easiest things to do with making this app. Some pages later on are going to look a little wonky because of the mobile optimization though. We've got buttons to guide users to different points of interest on the agenda page, and then the agenda itself is broken out event by event. The list may look a little bit different than your normal itinerary, but that's for good reason. Each event is actually a record that's entered into the database. This means that the agenda can be customized or changed by creating a new record or by altering an existing one. And this is why people really liked my app. It wasn't built specifically for this SBDC conference, but for any conference. That's all the object-oriented design and reusability stuff that I was talking about earlier. Going into workshops, we just have a list of available workshops. I was going to make a novella about the Beach Boys one eventually. This page suffers a lot from the mobile optimization. At the top, we have different ways for users to sort the workshops by concurrent session, meaning what time it was hosted at, or by entrepreneurial interest. Those categories are specific to this conference, however, they could be easily changed to something else. On the back end, I wish I added a microflow to keep administrators from being able to add 2 workshops in the same room taking place at the same time. Moving on to the consultants page, we have some sample information for consultants. The latter half shows available consulting sessions which can still be booked. You need an account to do that, and oh boy, we'll get there. Speakers just give some info about the workshop hosts. If you're reading mine, it's inaccurate. I finished with 4 majors, but I am still definitely the school's biggest Beach Boys fan, at least until I graduate later this year. The networking page shows a list of users who created an account for the conference. Very importantly, this is a feature that users needed to opt into to share their information. Obviously, this is pretty bare bones and you'd like a more social media feel for this kind of a page. We thought about doing virtual business cards that you could pop up and share with other attendees, but I didn't even know where to start with that one. You'll also see that there's a blank record in this list. That's because of an issue with including the information from the blank demo account that you can use to test the app. I thought I patched that out, but I guess not. Directions is just a page with a picture. The circle and inclusion of the names of just the buildings that mattered for the conference were the work of a teammate, so thank you. We wanted to integrate a Maps plugin so that guests would be able to plug in their information and then get directions. Also, a bonus points thing from the SBDC staff. However, I couldn't do that with a time constraint. Finally, we have the feedback page. This is a bare bones way for attendees to submit feedbacks on the conference or its workshops. There probably should have been a way to submit anonymous feedback, but this page is exactly what the SBDC staff wanted. Dread it, run from it, the login page arrives just the same. This part took me so much time, it's honestly not even funny. It's also the reason why the judges in attendance for the app demo were so impressed. On the login page, you can log in, create an account, or use continue without an account to just go back to the home page. I actually added that in as a last minute fix because I overlooked adding in the logout feature. That's a pretty huge oversight. Now behind the scenes, there's essentially 3 different sets of permissions users have based on their account status. Regular attendees without accounts have one, guests with accounts have another, and administrators have top access to create and modify all data. Making an account allows you to reserve workshops and book one-on-one consulting sessions. It also lets you participate in the networking section. And this was a bit of a pain because you have to configure the security options for all pages as to who can see them and who can even interact with them. You can do this with specific objects as well, as I'll cover shortly. Now the major difficulty was even just creating the accounts. The way Mendix was at the time, the login plugin was for people with Mendix accounts to sign into apps. I wanted people to be able to make accounts within the app itself. This required a lot of security and password work, but the main thing was that when users went to actually go and create their in-app accounts, Mendix automatically gave them the choice or automatically assigned them to administrator accounts. Would not be a great idea to have all attendees be able to modify and delete all of the conference data. So I had to go into the account creation and microflows and build a custom way to pull the account class and automatically assign the non-administrator account attributes to each new account instance. In reality, there was a lot more to it, but getting back to the app, why go through all the trouble of enabling account creation? Well, going back to the agenda page now shows you your customized agenda based on your reservations, which you're also able to delete. If you attempt to register for a workshop at the same time during a session you've already booked, you'll get a pop-up notifying you to delete your first reservation. Thanks, microflows. I probably should have tried just pulling up the reservation and method of canceling it in the pop-up, but instead it just redirects to the agenda page. Something else I wasn't able to do with the reservations was deal with capacity. This would be dependent on the room in which the workshop was hosted. And also, one of the workshop times overlapped with the consulting sessions. Having both scheduled should have also triggered a pop-up. Attempting to book more than one consulting session also gives you a custom pop-up. A few other small fixes. Networking should give people with the account the ability to remove their information. Feedback should automatically populate the email address into the form. And of course, there should be a way to log out. The administrator account allows staff to modify, delete, or create different records and data for the app. So I gave a cool demo of the app and its features to a panel of judges, one of whom is now one of my bosses. Our team won the competition, and the SBDC staff were very interested in using our app going forward. Of course, the conference got canceled due to Rona, and then that never came to fruition. However, another judge was a prominent employee of Mendix. She encouraged me to enter a student app competition with my app, and so I did. I ended up coming in second place, globally. I lost out to a team of graduate students from a big name university who were working with their professor and corporate sponsorship from Dell. I personally call that a win. So what did I get for this achievement? A shirt and a certificate that says runner-up. I do really like this shirt though. Plus, saying you're an award-winning app developer is kind of a cool flex, as much as I hate saying it. Mendix eventually did send me some other goodies for attending a virtual conference as well. And the experience was great for building skills and makes for good discussion at interviews. Now, what are the top takeaways takeaways from my experience. These will apply not just to app development, but to general business activity and side hustles as well. First, you need to focus on value. What is it that your customers or your end users want? What can you actually give them? What can you do to help bridge this gap? Thankfully, I was able to ask directly, but I was also able to infer and add things like the custom microflows to prevent double bookings of the workshops and consulting sessions. Next, you have to understand that delivering value can just take time. I had to learn a lot and try really hard to do some of that login stuff, which they've really simplified over the last 2 years. Sometimes the best thing that you can do is just to stick with it. Finally, presentation is key. You can have a great product or service, but the way you present it is going to be a much bigger factor in how people perceive it. And that's what marketing and advertising are all about, increasing how valuable people perceive something to be. That's why I focus my presentation around industry buzzwords and key features such as the registrations, custom logic, and reusability of the app for future conferences. With that, make sure to register the like button by clicking it so that this video gets reused in the YouTube algorithm. Have you ever built an app? Can you apply some of these lessons to your projects? How much did I make from it? Absolutely nothing. But absolutely let me know about the answers to the first two and comment down below. Click the video on screen to watch another that you're going to enjoy, and then please add some music, an award-winning app, or whatever else it is that you love to your day.